Hello everyone. I would like to welcome you all for the virtual chemistry practicals. In this video, we are going to start with the first experiment of chemistry. And the title for the experiment is Introduction to Basic Laboratory Equipments. And the aim of this experiment is to study the commonly used apparatus in the laboratory. Before starting with the experiments in the chemistry lab, it is very important to understand or to have the basic knowledge of the apparatus that we are going to use commonly in the laboratory. So, the commonly used apparatus in the laboratory have been classified into three types depending upon the material from which it has been made. So the first one is glass apparatus, second one is porcelain apparatus, and the third one is miscellaneous apparatus. So whatever apparatus we are using in the chemistry lab can be classified mainly into three different types. One is glass apparatus, second one is porcelain, and the third one is miscellaneous. In glass apparatus, the apparatus are made up of glass. Similarly, in porcelain apparatus are made up of porcelain material, and miscellaneous apparatus are the ones which are made up of neither glass nor porcelain but of some other materials. Okay, so let us start with the first type of apparatus, that is glass apparatus. Again, in glass apparatus, there are many different types of apparatus. So let us go through them one by one. For which glass apparatus, what is will be the name, and also we are going to see the picture of that, as well as we are also going to discuss about the use of that particular apparatus. So the first apparatus, glass apparatus, we are going to discuss is beaker. So in this one, you can see the image, I think. So the glass apparatus of this type, we call it as a beaker. If you are going to look at this properly, you can see that at one side there is a beak, isn't it? At one side there is a beak, and hence this glass apparatus, we call it as beaker, and the main use is to collect the liquids. Okay, we use beaker to collect liquids. And the second one is conical flask. You can see the picture, I think. Glass apparatus of this type, we call it as a conical flask. Again, it is made up of glass, and it is used for titration. What is titration and all? You will learn it later, but just remember, conical flask is a glass apparatus whose shape is like this as shown in the picture, and it is used for titration. The third one is measuring cylinder or measuring jar. Here comes the picture. This type of glass apparatus, we call it as measuring cylinder, or even it can be called as measuring jar, as the name itself suggests that it is used for measuring. Whenever we are performing the experiment, we are going to take some amount of liquids and all. At that time, to measure those liquid, we are using the measuring cylinder. So the use is, it is used to measure the volume of the liquids. Then comes gas jar, and the shape of gas jar is something like this. As the name itself suggests, this type of apparatus, that is gas jar, is used to collect the gases. Next is desiccator. Here comes the picture. This type of glass apparatus, we call it as desiccator, and it is used to keep the substances to avoid absorption of moisture. Okay, whenever we come across gravimetric analysis, in that we are going to check the weight of the compound. If that particular compound, if it is going to absorb some moisture, we are not going to get the exact mass. So in order to avoid absorption of moisture, we keep the particular compound or the substances in desiccator, which helps us to avoid absorption of moisture. Then comes watch glass. This type of glass apparatus is called as watch glass, as shown in the figure, and the use of watch glass is to cover the beaker. As I showed it in the first glass apparatus, beaker, whenever we take any liquid and start boiling in the beaker, we cover the surface by using watch glass. In that case, watch glass is used, and one more use is to weigh the substances. Okay, as I told, in chemistry practicals, we often measure the weight of the substances. Okay, so while weighing the substances, we are going to take the solids in watch glass and then we will weigh it. So watch glass is also used to weigh the substances. Then comes test tube. You people might be familiar with this. This type of glass apparatus, we call it as test tube, and the use of this test tube is to carry chemical test. Again, in chemistry practicals, we are going to come across qualitative analysis. We are going to do or perform qualitative analysis where many chemical tests has to be performed, and at that particular time we are going to use test tube to carry out that chemical reaction between different chemicals. Okay. Then comes funnel. And the picture goes like this. For funnel, this type of glass apparatus, we call it as a funnel. It is used to, first one is filter the solution. Okay, that is nothing but filtration. We can do the filtration using the funnel, and also to transfer the liquid from one bottle to another. Again, we are using the funnel to transfer. Okay, so funnel, it is used in filtration as well as transferring the liquid from one bottle to another. Next one is a glass rod. Look at this. This type of glass apparatus, we call it as a glass rod, and the use of this glass rod is to stir the solution. As I told, in chemistry, we will be mixing some chemicals so that chemical reaction takes place. Sometimes they will not mix uniformly or completely. In order to do so, we are going to use glass rod and we are going to stir that one, which assures that there is almost complete mixing of the solution, and also stirring can be done to dissolve a particular solute in a solvent. So at that time we are going to make use of glass rod to stir. And the next one is glass tube. The shape of glass tube goes like this. If you are going to compare a glass rod and glass tube, you can see that glass rod, it is a solid which is completely filled. But in case of glass tube, you can notice that it is a hollow cylindrical tube. Okay, it is a hollow cylindrical shaped glass tube. And the main use of glass tube is to add the solution drop points. Again, in chemistry practicals, there will be certain situation where we are supposed to add the solution dropwise. If you are going to transfer the solution from the beaker, there is more probability of more chemical getting into the other apparatus. So in order to avoid that, it is better to use glass tube to add dropwise of the solution. And the next one is a round bottom flask. As the name itself suggests that it is a glass apparatus whose bottom is round, and the picture is shown in the figure. This type of glass apparatus we call it as round bottom flask, and the main use of this round bottom flask is to carry out a reaction. Whenever there are different chemicals which we are supposed to carry out the reaction, add those chemical in the round bottom flask, and you can steer that one by holding the neck of the round bottom flask, which ensures more uniform or complete mixing of the chemicals that has been taken in the round bottom flask. But because it is a round bottom flask, the bottom is round, it cannot stand on a table by itself. There has to be support to make it stand on the table. And the last one is flat bottom flask. It is very similar to round bottom flask. Only difference is here the bottom is flat and it can stand on the table, and the main use of flat bottom flask is to collect distilled water. Whenever we are performing the qualitative analysis, we cannot use tap water for the chemical test that we perform in that qualitative analysis. So we are going to use distilled water, and that distilled water can be collected in the flat bottom flask. So that is the use of flat bottom flask. So far we have came across 12 glass apparatus. Now we are going to start with second type of apparatus, that is porcelain apparatus. Porcelain in common language, it is also called as pingani. You might have heard that bangles are made up of porcelain. Okay, girls might be familiar with that. Okay, so in porcelain apparatus, first one we are going to discuss is China dish, and the picture goes something like this. You can see, I think it is white in color, and this type of apparatus, which is made up of porcelain, is called as China dish, and the main use of China dish is to evaporate solvent during crystallization. Evaporate solvent during crystallization by heating. Okay, so whenever any solution is there in which solvent as well as solute particles are there, and if you want to for produce crystals of the solute particles, obviously you are supposed to take out the solvent by evaporating. And how you are going to evaporate? By heating, isn't it? So in this case, while heating, you cannot use a glass apparatus, because glass apparatus are very sensitive towards heat. If you are going to heat for a longer period of time, there is probability, much probability of that particular glass apparatus to break. So if you, in that case, we are going to use China dish, which is highly resistant to heat, which means if you are going to apply more heat, even though the China dish is not going to break. So whenever you are going to heat for a longer period of time, you are not going to use the glass apparatus, but you are going to use porcelain apparatus like China dish. And the second one is porcelain tile. And the picture goes like this. You can see it. It is a porcelain tile made up of porcelain, which is white in color. And the main use of this is to provide white background to observe color change during titration. In titration, we are going to mix one chemical to another until there is a slight color change. Okay, and to identify that slight color change, we need to have a white background. If there is no white background, we cannot observe or identify the color change immediately. That is why we are going to use porcelain tile, which will provide white background, which helps us to identify the color change during titration. So we have completed up till now about the glass apparatus as well as porcelain apparatus, and lastly we are going for miscellaneous apparatus which are neither made up of glass nor porcelain comes under this category. And in this we are going to start with asbestos sheet, and the image goes like this: asbestos sheet, and it is used to keep hot apparatus. So as I told, again in chemistry practical are going to come across certain, sorry, sometimes we are going to come across heating process. After heating, that particular apparatus should not be kept directly on the table. Instead, it should be kept on the asbestos sheet which has been kept on the table. Then the second one is spatula. The picture goes like this. You can see that this spatula is used to take out the substances or the chemicals from the bottle. So whenever you are performing the experiment, you need some of the chemicals, either solid or liquid, depends upon the experiment. If it is a solid chemical or the substance, you are not going to take out that chemical with the help of your hand or any other thing. You are going to use the spatula for taking the chemicals from the bottle, because these chemicals are sometimes harmful. So if it comes in direct contact with the skin of your hand or something, it may cause some harmful diseases. So in order to avoid that, we are going to use spatula to take out the substances from the bottle. And the next one is pair of tongs. Okay, it goes something like this, which is like a scissor but not exactly same to your scissor. Okay, so what is the main use of it? It is used to hold hot apparatus. After heating, as I told, you are not going to leave the apparatus in its own place. You are going to keep on the asbestos sheet which is present on your table, isn't it? At that time, while shifting the hot apparatus, you are neither going to hold the hot apparatus with your hand or any other cloth. At that time, you are going to make use of the pair of tongs to shift the hot apparatus from one place to the other, that is on your table, which where asbestos sheet has been provided. And the next one is test tube holder. The image goes like this: test tube holder. How to hold the test tube with the help of test tube holder and all, we will discuss it in the next experiment. Just have an idea about which apparatus is called as what and what is the main use of it. How to use them, we are going to see it in the next practical, as well as other experiment as well, wherever we use these apparatus. So as the name itself suggests, test tube holder, it is used to hold the test tube during heating. Whenever you are heating some substances or the chemicals in the test tube, you are not going to hold the test tube in your hand nor with the help of cloth. Instead, you are going to hold it with the help of test tube holder, which has been shown in the picture. And the next one is test tube stand. This is the test tube stand. Here, whenever you are performing the qualitative analysis, as we know, the chemical tests are conducted or carried out in the test tube. We need many number of test tubes, and at that particular time, you cannot hold the test tube all at once with you, because you are the person who need to carry out the experiment. You can't keep on holding the test tube. At that time, you can use test tube stand. Okay, you can see that there are straight lines here. Okay, so after performing the test tube, sorry, chemical test in a particular test tube, after washing them, you can keep it for drying by keeping it inverted in these straight lines. Test tubes can be kept inverted in these straight lines, which you can see in the test tube stand, and whatever holes are given, in that you are going to place the test tube in the correct direction. Straight lines for inverted test tube, holes for keeping the test tube straight. Okay, so the use, as I told, it is used to keep test tubes at one place. You cannot keep here and there. Test tube stand will be provided in that particular test tube stand. Keep all the test tubes which has been provided for you people. And the next one is tripod stand. And the image goes like this. For tripod stand, you can see it in the picture. Tripod stand, actually it is used to support the apparatus during heating process. For heating process, we need fire, wherein we are going to use Bunsen burner as the source of fire. So whenever you are heating, you cannot keep the apparatus on that particular burner. So we are using the tripod stand, which provides the support for the apparatus during heating, whatever it may be. Either it can be beaker if you are going to heat for a short period of time. If you are going to heat for a longer period of time, obviously you will be using China dish. For them, we need the support because we can't keep them directly on the Bunsen burner. So we are going to use tripod stand, which provides the support. And the next one is wire gauge. You can see the picture here. This wire gauge, it is used to, first one, get uniform heating. As I told, tripod stand will provide the support for the apparatus. You are not again going to keep the apparatus directly on the tripod stand. First you are going to take Bunsen burner. There you are going to place tripod stand. On that tripod stand, first you are going to keep wire gauge and then the apparatus which you are supposed to heat, in which chemicals are present. Okay. Why to use wire gauges? Bunsen burner, it gives the flame in one particular direction. So the chemicals that are present at the center of the apparatus will be heated more compared to the other side. In order to get uniform flame, we can use the wire gauge, which ensures uniform heating. And the second one is to protect apparatus from the smoke. While heating, the flame produces smoke, and in order to protect apparatus from that smoke, obviously again we are going to use wire gauge. And this completes the first experiment of your chemistry practicals. I hope you people have understood